Hello everyone. I wanted to make a quick video about pest management in indoor farming. I will be talking about the hobby level, which is where I have the experience. And we all know that indoor farming has one big advantage. You are less exposed to pests and insects in the first place. However, once they do get in, there are no natural predators to control their population and they can freely grow. The growth of the pest is exponential just like a virus. For yourself, as an individual handling the plants that you have indoors, it's hard to justify spending the same amount of effort daily inspecting the plants to find one or two bug individuals. The return of your effort in checking the stalk, the leaves, under the leaves, the roots, just to maybe find one or two can easily be dismissed. Well, if that happens, before you know it, that one or two individuals you missed suddenly became dozens, and now it's too late to save the plant. By the time you spot many larva stages and some adults visually, the plant is probably gone. How do the pests get actually indoor? Throughout my history, I've found many different ways that we thought that we had been infected with pests. First of all, if you're buying new soil to put indoors, there may be eggs in there, so you could think about sterilizing it somehow. Then the eggs or the larvae or the adults can hitch a ride in your clothing. So you also have to think about where you visit before you go to the place indoor where you have your plants, because you may be carrying these insects. If you also open the windows often to air your indoor growing place, these insects, they are attracted by aromas of your plants, and it kind of follows like a gradient. So they detect the aroma somewhere outside, and they know how to follow the aroma because keeps getting stronger the closer it is to the plant, and that's how they navigate to find your plant. And there's not really a good way to deal with this other than not opening the windows and maybe just having indoor ventilation somehow. Lastly, if you get seedlings, so instead of growing from seed, you buy the seedlings that you get may have already infected, but you don't see it visually because it may be in the eggs, or the soil where they are can also have the eggs or the insects. So you have to trust the source of the seedlings, that they are not selling you something infected, and that happens quite often because the people growing, they also don't know it's infected. I would actually go so far to say that tackling pests can be similar approach as tackling a pandemic. And this is because once you do get that infection of the pests, you have to increase the physical distance between all the plants, and especially between the infected ones and the healthy ones. You should isolate both as much as possible. You can do that, for example, by moving them to different rooms with doors, or to have grow tents that have also a physical barrier. These are just some ideas. And you should also disinfect the affected plant parts and grow material as much as possible. And also your own clothing and body to avoid carrying unintentional eggs or larvae that you missed because they were too small to see. How then to deal with pests regularly? I would recommend that you check for bugs at the very least once a week by examining over and under the leaves and in the stalk. The damage is usually visible early on, but that's only if you have the adult versions. If you have the eggs, that's very hard to see. If damaged, then you should remove the affected leaves or the whole plant altogether. You should quarantine both the good and the bad plants with some sort of physical barrier to prevent the spread. Treatment wise, if you think you can salvage that plant and you have removed the parts that were affected, but just in case you want to go further with some treatment, I would suggest that you have what's so-called organic soap mixed in water, 1 to 3 parts. So you put 1 part of soap and then 3 parts of water. You put that in a bottle that you can spray, and then you spray the leaves over and under and also the stalk. As an alternative to organic soap, you can also use something called neem oil, also 1 to 3 parts. So 1 part neem oil, 3 parts water. Also in a bottle that you can spray, also spraying in the leaves over and under and also the stalk of the plant. If you are doing this to a plant with edible leaves, you should make sure to rinse well when you harvest, because soap and neem oil taste horribly and they're actually not so good for your health if you're eating them. But more importantly, I would actually tell you that you should realize that a battle may be won, but not the war. It's impossible to keep all your plants 100% bug free. Pests are never eliminated; they're managed. And if you do get bugs attacking your plants and you've done what I've described before, I actually recommend that you take a full growing break of 1 to 2 months once you have found an infected plant in your indoor setting. So you let your current plants live out if they're for short-term consumption, and you protect the long-term ones somewhere else. Then you make sure there's no exposed soil anywhere in your indoor setting where they can lay eggs. So by not growing almost anything for 1 to 2 months, you will break the pest's life cycle because you are starving them of food. And during those 1 to 2 months, you can also have time to sterilize and clean all the growing recipients you're using. You can clean that by washing with hot water and soap or detergent, or even alcohol if you have enough to spare. So there you go. I hope this quick video had some useful information about pest management. It is extremely frustrating when you get pests. I know this from personal experience. You always think you have it under control, and suddenly, before you know it, it's out of control, and you have to kill plants that you were hoping to harvest. And if you're doing this as a business, it's even worse because you have the whole profit costs part. If it's at a hobby level, it's okay. You just wasted some time. You can always do it again. But as a business, that's even worse. So that's why they usually invest in other forms of pest management, which I have not mentioned, which can include predatory insects and also pesticides actually. So yeah, I hope this quick video had some useful information, and I'll see you in the next one, and be careful with your pests.